What if all females disappeared? Suddenly, overnight, all women disappear. That's around 3.8 billion people on our planet. Other than the world suddenly becoming a lot lighter, there would be massive impacts to society and then eventually on the human race as a whole. It's no secret that we need both sexes to survive, but it's also no secret that in terms of continuing our race, women are a lot more important than men. After all, it's not so easy to store a woman's reproductive output in a freezer to be used as and when we need it. But away from simply having babies, there would be wider impacts to the way we live until eventually we couldn't live at all. Let's look at what would happen if all females disappeared. Before we look at this, a quick reminder to give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying it and also to subscribe to Brain Impact for more videos just like this one. But now back to a world without women. Let's look at the most important thing. The survival of our species. Without women, we wouldn't have life, right? Well, this is technically true, but may not always be the case. In 2016, groundbreaking research with mice found a way of producing life without an egg, but instead using skin cells. Although this method is far from being proved in humans, it is around the corner. Of course, if females disappear today, scientists would lose the eggs needed to perform further tests, so the method wouldn't be fully realized. This is assuming that the process of freezing eggs for future use or mature cryopreservation couldn't be used. This method presents many risks and is far from a guarantee of success. If women disappeared, then we'd only have a finite amount of these eggs to use for experimentation, also reducing the chances of success. Whatever method was used, they need to be an alternative method of reproducing humans, and it'd need to be developed quickly to ensure our race didn't die out. You can be guaranteed that if women went missing, the remaining men would make this their main priority over everything else, similar to how the scientific community has raced to produce a vaccine to tackle COVID-19. While the world worked on a way to save ourselves, society would be very different. Straight relationships would cease to be, and the only couples left would be of the same sex. This may prompt extreme behaviors in those left on the planet. You can expect the use of pornography to skyrocket, but also for this material to become more of an archive than something that is newly produced. There is a school of thought that male grooming might become something of the past with no females to groom for. This might see a death in not just the female beauty market, but also the male equivalent as well. That contributes to around $500 billion of the US economy, so expect the economy as a whole to take a hit. It's not only this industry that would take a hit. With no children, there'd be no need for children's clothes, which would mean no revenue for companies that currently profit from this. In 2017, the global children's wear market was worth approximately $203.4 billion US, and the designer's kids wear market around $5.89 billion US. With no women to bear children, then you could say goodbye to this boost to the economy altogether. Mind you, with the death of our entire species looming, something like the economy might appear to be insignificant at this stage. However, it's still worth noting these huge changes to our society. Another example is childcare. This is a huge industry, especially with more and more parents going to work. In 2017 in the UK, the total turnover of child daycare activities was over £4.3 billion. With no children to care for, none of this spending would happen, and this would be yet another huge knock to the economy, not to mention the thousands of job losses suffered by nursery workers. And none of this mentions teachers. As the years rolled on, there would be no children left to teach. There'd only be adults roaming the planet. In this scenario, expect to see millions of school teachers out of work. In good news, emotional problems would be reduced due to matters of the heart, at least within straight relationships. A study in India concluded that 12% of suicides are down to relationship issues: marriage, divorce, affair, love affair, or suspected/illicit relations. Whilst this is good news, there is a negative side. Loneliness is one of the main causes of depression, and depression is one of the main causes of suicide. Without a woman by a man's side, loneliness is likely to skyrocket, and along with that, suicide rates. Yes, there will be plenty of bros around to help avoid this, but they would never be able to replace the need for a soulmate provided by a female life partner. Then there's the impact on society. In 2017, the Washington Post ran an interesting blog which hypothesized a world without women and focused on things that wouldn't change in order to highlight the male-dominated parts of our world that need more female influence. The Post takes a somewhat irreverent look at the fact that men would have no one to listen to their explanations, no one to hear their great ideas, which were actually courtesy of women weeks earlier, and no one to explain how crazy all their exes were. The post goes on to explore the fact that issues surrounding our modern society would be no more. The debate around a woman's right to not feel unsafe when walking alone wouldn't exist. Men would only objectify actual objects, and men would be allowed to ignore feelings and turn the world into one big locker room. This dystopian vision of the world going backwards could become an actuality if women disappeared. Without the fairer sex to balance men out, then there's a danger that the level of testosterone might take over, leading to an implosion of societies. After all, it's been proven that men contribute to wars, fights, and power struggles far more than women, so it could be likely that the world become a complete war zone without a female influence. Of course, violent crime towards women would reduce, but it's hard to see this as a positive, as the only reason for this would be the fact that there's no women to be violent towards. More likely, the aggression would be circumvented towards other men. Then there's business, the economy, and government. The reality is that any kind of significant difference in these areas would be minimal due to the underrepresentation of women in these fields. In particular, areas like Wall Street and Silicon Valley would feel relatively similar, such as their lack of female representation. The same could be said of big-budget movies. These would be largely the same, with a few scenes cut out due to the male-dominated screen presence we see today. Although the movie industry as a whole would collapse due to the significant amount of ticket sales that we would see plummeting without women. You could argue that the majority of history is dominated by men, so most significant events would largely stay the same, but there would be a couple things to remember here. 1. History is written by the victors, aka men. And 2. The phrase, "behind every great man, there's a great woman." Without these great women bringing the best out of influential men, then we are likely to see male influence diminish. Of course, there's also the fact that although women are underrepresented in positions of power, they are still represented in the modern world. The developed countries of Germany and New Zealand would be lacking a leader, with Angela Merkel and Jacinda Ardern no longer there. Incidentally, they represent two of the countries that best tackled the coronavirus pandemic, so those countries would no longer be in the safe hands they currently are in now. So, in summary, a world without women is a dystopian one. A world potentially without life and certainly without the balance that humans need to survive. What do you think of this bleak scenario? Let us know in the comments box, and please like this video if you've enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos like this one, then subscribe to Brain Impact for more. Thanks for watching.